Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to be here with you and all the organization team of Hellenic Association for Energy Economics. I'd like to welcome the excellent speakers we have with us today in order to exchange views and make a dialogue for something hot. Hot not because it is energy, but because it is really hot in our days, and we have seen lately very clear in our own country how it works. I'd like to start with Monsieur François de Ricolfis, which is head of the Regional Economic Service for Southeast Europe of the French Embassy. François, what is your opinion about the RES energy market in the country, here in this country? Of course, in connection with Southeast Europe, that you have very good understanding in view of energy supplies in Europe.
Thank you. Maybe just in 3 words to sum it up, and then I will develop a little bit. The first word is impressed. The second is bullish, and the third is maybe a word of caution. First, I'm impressed because the market in Greece has been changing very fast. You've achieved 40% of power production in renewable energies, which, by the way, is twice what we achieved in France. So we might be a little bit jealous. So that's something quite a performance. And it means that the aim you have of reaching 80% is quite achievable. So in that way, that's quite a performance. The reason why it's achievable and why I'm bullish is because you have 3 factors for you. You have the geography, the landscape, you have space, you have wind, you have sun, you have sea. So you have lots of opportunities to develop. Sometimes people say that the Greek legislation is slow to adapt. As regards energies, you've been adapting very well, and the framework is never perfect, but basically it serves its needs and it's been adapted to what's been happening in the country. And first, the country has been developing the network of connection between the islands, meaning the islands can move from using dirty fuel to using renewable energies and being connected between each other. So you have a landscape which is going on very well. And may I add, you have many companies, Greek, foreign, and French, interested in the market. So this is also a positive. The word of caution, it's not a surprise, is about the state of the network. Like many things in the countries, it has suffered from underinvestment. So it's not always able to accommodate the new facilities. I had a figure in mind, which is 5 billion of upgrade work. So this is quite a challenge. So I hope things will work as fast as they will work in the rest of the country, so as everything which is planned can work. And maybe a last word about renewable energies, because we always speak about production. We should speak also about use, and there is a tiny market in Greece, which is the ship owners and the ships. And one big issue will be moving the fleet of Greek ship owners from using fuel to use clean energies. And so this is an enormous undertaking. I hope it would succeed, but if it goes well, and I think the ship owners' word is a word of challenge, if things goes well, you will have a completely different landscape in maybe 15, 20 years. Big challenge, big achievements, and big rewards at the end. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, one French company, which is the one that our invited Mr. Éric, sitting next to you, is leading. Akuo was the initiator for the first globally green island in the country, Halki project. I was very happy to participate in that effort, along with other French companies and only one company out of the 7 was not French company anyway. And it was an initiative that was really very important even inaugurated by the Prime Minister of Greece, Mr. Mitsotakis, Kyriakos Mitsotakis. So, next steps for Green Island, a globalized approach, fuel Green Islands as Halki, fuel for vessels, could be a target for cooperation between French and Greek companies, and how we could do it with more organized way. What I mean by that, not only at the level of initiatives between companies, but also potential an MOU between the two countries, bringing together companies, making a coordinated effort along with organized strategy. What is your opinion on this?
You're asking to me, or?
It is a question.
Oh, it's a global question.
It goes both, also to you, Eric, but also to François.
You know, when it comes to talk about Ireland, I love to talk about islands, you know. Now, I can take it, or if you want, up to you. Tell me. No,
it's a dialogue. So
no, yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't prepare anything, but you're talking about Ireland, so now Ireland is very important for one reason. On a small territory, we've been able in the last 20 years to show the path, to demonstrate what will be the future of energy. And the future of energy is today. And I refuse to call it renewable energy anymore. I just call it energy. And the reason why we've been pushing for installing renewable energy at that time, which is energy on islands, it's because most of the islands, that's not always the case in Greece, but most of the islands, the one we worked in the past, like in the Reunion Island, New Caledonia, the Caribbean, Corsica, most of the time they were fully isolated. So on those islands, we had to face two major transitions. The energy transition, how can we green the energy production on those islands? And also the food transition. How can you fulfill the needs for feeding the people on these islands? And what was interesting is we've been facing 16 years ago, 17 years ago, a main problem. How can you tackle those two transitions with a limited space? That's where we started to invent the concept of what is called today agrivoltaism, and you will hear more and more about it. Agrivoltaism was how to share in the same space, how to share the space to produce energy on food. And we started with greenhouses in the Reunion Island. That was the first step. Second reason why what we've done together in Halki is important is on the islands, we reach a penetration of renewable energy 10 years ago, a very high penetration of renewable energy. So we've been facing, maybe before anybody else, we've been facing the problem of the Sunday at noon, because we had a lot of PV production on those islands because we were gifted a lot of sun. So we were using what we had at our disposal, sun. So at noon on Sunday, less consumption, we were facing this problem. And that's why 12 years ago, we started to invest, to develop one of the main solutions to increase the proportion of renewable energy into the grid, storage. So islands have been showing the path of storage. And to tell you where we stand today, where we are, last month, Akuo, we won a tender in New Caledonia in the Pacific of 200 megawatt hour of storage. This is the largest battery, the biggest one for France, the entire France. Greening the island, it's very important. And it should be easy today, much easier than before, because is cheap. It's cheaper than anything else. If you compete by producing energy with solar and storage, you're competing with diesel, for example, you win the battle. We won the economical battle. So why shall we wait more to green the islands? There is absolutely no reason to wait more. So I will let you answer about the potential cooperation, but thanks to the fact that France has a lot of islands, we've been forced on populated islands. Huh? Réunion Island is almost 1 million people. Huh? It's not underpopulated. So maybe we can do something together. Do you want to? You got one.
Thank you. Yes, about cooperation, I'm a bureaucrat, so by definition, I love cooperation agreements because that's the way we organize things. But I would need to discuss with my people in Paris. In a paradoxical way, things have been working quite well until then without a formal framework. It's a bit difficult to list the number of French companies which are going on the market. So why not? Issue to be discussed, also to be discussed with my colleagues here in the Ministry of Energy. So I'm open to the idea, but I'm not alone to decide. And it's not been a break until now for the development of the market in Greece and for the development of French companies. And I know that we regularly get interest from new companies coming in. So I think the thing is how to maintain the flow and increase it.
I agree with you. It's not necessarily an official framework, but same times an official framework gives the opportunity to newcomers as well, because of the awareness, to be interested and to come in. I am sure that companies like Akuo, like Intrakat, they will be very willing. I'm not talking about Copelouzos group because your wings, they are in broader areas at this period. Although you are also in Crete and its interconnection with the mainland. So, but it could be important maybe to, you have an initiator here, he organized the event, he's organizing unbelievable things in the energy sector. He's your guy here, Mr. Andriosopoulos, Professor Andriosopoulos. To make him run a little bit more in order to further develop all these issues with the Green Islands and potential cooperations between companies. You may organize even an event in this respect, focusing on the Green Islands. President, you know that with him you can run such an event very fast.
If I may, I'd like to take a commitment in front of you today. And you will know that when in Akuo we say something, we do something. We do it, always. That's our DNA. Since the last 20 years. So my commitment that I take in front of you today is very simple. We've been learning a lot in the last 20 years in Akuo, developing renewable energy on islands, bringing solutions for farming, new solutions to protect the food, the crops into the islands, storage, production. There was a learning curve. We learned a lot. That cost us a lot to invest and to arrive to that point. So my commitment is very simple. We are ready in Akuo to give that to Greece for free. There is absolutely no reasons that we wait more to implement the solution we did put in place in the last 20 years. This should be given to the Greek islands. So we are ready to cooperate in a sense to give feedback, give our entire experience. We did things the wrong way, the good way. Why shall we expect those islands to waste more time to arrive to the final point? So my commitment, and Kostas is here, come and see us. Let's organize ourselves. We can organize an event, that's not a problem, and we will tell you what we've done the wrong way, the right way. But to be honest with you, we know the solutions today, and the solution is affordable for everybody. So that's our commitment.
I will jump from that. I will pass the floor directly to Mr. Eleftheriadis. Very good. Green Island. Nice target. Super commitment from a part of Akuo and Éric. Greece has an investment grade. What is this added value towards these new steps in conjunction with something, regulatory framework, how weak we are today for battery storage, for agro PVs, for floating PVs, for channel PVs. I say things that Akuo is running. Why I say this? Because we have the chance, ladies and gentlemen, to have here in this panel some people that are initiating things worldwide level. Mr. Karydas is running for Copelouzos group the interconnector between Egypt and Greece. Why I say it is so big challenges, the presence of these people? Because we have a cutting edge knowledge of energy on this panel. Mr. Lazarakis has an experience for years and years developing and constructing projects, a lot of years. You, François, you are in an area covering huge developments in this period. So, coming back to you, Mr. Eleftheriadis, tell us, what is your approach? Investment grade, regulatory framework. How good, how bad? How good is the investment grade? Impact for all of these initiatives? And regulatory framework, how weak we are in reality? How we create obstacles rather than reasons to attract investors like Éric here.
First of all, thank you very much for being here. It's, I would say, a complicated question. I will start by saying investment grade. Okay, it's something that we have been waiting for years. What has changed? It's obvious even over the last few months that we are seeing many more investors coming. So there is a strong appetite. We are now on the table of funds, of social security funds, of investors that we were not in the past. And that was only because we didn't have the investment grade. We could have many opportunities on the table, but because of the investment grade, we were not on their decision list. So this is something important. This is something big for Greece, and it creates also a lot of opportunities. Opportunities to attract a lot of funds, a lot of investments, foreign capital in the market. We have been experiencing over the last 5 to 10 years significant investments in Greece because we were in a distressed position, we can say. So we had investments coming because they were acquiring distressed companies. However, now this is something different. It's something that it gives a clear sign that we are a more mature market. So somebody's coming here in order to invest in the long term. And why I'm saying this? Because we also have some threats, which is not only for Greece, it's across the globe. We have the threat of inflation and the threat of increased interest rates. And this means that the investors expect to receive something more. And in the long term, this might be difficult. So in order to do that as a country, we must have many opportunities for them. If we want to attract many investors, if we want to attract many funds, we have to have many projects running in parallel, different projects that have different maturities, that have different return of investments. And I think that we are in the right path. We have now significant investments in front of us in interconnections. We have significant investments in all areas of grid. We have significant investments in the renewable sector. Even with LNG and gas, but this is a different story. We have significant investments coming for hydrogen, and we see that. And batteries, you mentioned a number of these things. So having everything on the table and attracting companies from abroad, like Akuo or other companies that they have this kind of experience in other markets, is important because we can get the benefit as a Greek market sooner than later. So investment grade is great. We have to tackle, however, the inflation and the increased interest rates that they are posing some threats. But in terms of the regulatory framework that you mentioned, I don't think that we are far behind, but I think that we have many things on the table that we have to organize very carefully in order not to cannibalize each other and in order to have a proper plan for the future, because in reality, we need everything. We have a number of threats. For example, we have the low prices in the middle of the day. This creates a huge issue for a renewable energy sector. So we must boost batteries, but we have to boost also hydrogen. So we have to boost also photovoltaics and offshore wind. So we have to have an equilibrium. So we have to develop the framework very soon in order to accommodate all the things, in order to have a hybrid model and include all kinds of investments on the same path, in the same direction, in order to get the best out of the opportunities of the market.
My issue is that in order to have any financing, we need legality, security, and profitability. What I mean by that, you must have the legal framework which is securing the concrete environment of the business that you are running. You must have all the securities necessary from insurance, from whatever it is, plus mortgages, whatever it is. And at the end, you have the profitability, which is the only risk that can be undertaken by the banks and the investors. Here, we are discussing about batteries. We are discussing about carbon capture and storage. We are discussing about floating PVs. But we have not the regulatory framework. So it could not be financed, it could not be insured. Loukas, you had long experience in this energy market, not less. You are absolutely right. It's the contemporary energy market. Whatever mix it has, you will permit me, I will keep it to continue your first phrase forever in every discussion for energy. So the contemporary energy market. What are your understanding from that experience, from challenges and threats that is giving the rest energy market in the country? And also give us your idea if you consider that your group could also be part of the effort that we say we could start from this panel to make green the islands, whatever that means.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me take the microphone. Can you hear me? Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank the association for inviting me again this year. So, Thoma, I used to be a young boy when I started, in love with the renewables.
You're still a young boy.
No,
young man anyway.
I'm a middle-aged developer now. We have seen a lot of things happening in this country. We have seen faces, numbers of different governments changing the legislation from one day to another. We have run a long way since then. Now everybody seems to be proud that we are covering the national targets regarding the installation capacity of renewables, and that's true. Even if we have done it the wrong way, it is true. We have a lot of challenges, a lot of weaknesses, and we're talking about islands. I think is the smallest problem that Greece is facing right now. We have a grid that's full. We have thousands of projects waiting in the queue to be licensed. We see every slot in the RAE thousands of new applications running without meaning, if you ask me. We had last year a ministerial decision prioritizing projects to be connected. I would say not very objective. It's the least that I can say for this ministerial decision. And now we hear that IPTO is not able no more to provide connection terms, even to fulfill this decision. So many islands the past years have been interconnected. I will say the most populated and the most energy consumption ones. We have quite a few, but small islands that can be benefited from technologies like storage and PVs. It's very difficult because you have a lot of enemies there. You have the grid operators, you have PPC, who dominates everything. The technology is there, I'm sure. You have done it in more, I mean, we don't have to invent the wheel. The knowledge is there, the technology is there. I would expect to see more strategy, sophisticated strategy in Greece. There's no strategy. We don't know how much technology, renewables we want, we need, what kind of energy mixture we want. We usually see the legislation trying to adjust itself to the development, to the chaotic development, and not the development trying to follow the legislation. This is a very nice Greek phenomenon. Many times in the past we were developing projects without having any legislation in place, because you mentioned the regulation, and if it's there for all these projects, it usually goes the other way around. We first prepare the projects and then we get the legislation. It's usually in Greece. Now, okay, the country has made many steps. Okay, we got the investment grade. It's better to work in an economic environment like that than in a bankrupt country, because we have been there also recently. Okay, it came in a very bad moment. Fundamental economics worldwide are suffering. Inflation, interest rates are crazy. They jeopardize and have any project right now, the interest rates that we hear. And public awareness and acceptance. We don't have yet the level of public acceptance that we need. We're going to have now soon municipal elections and regional elections. I can tell you that the majority of the candidates are running with using a major political argument, their opposition to renewables. Nobody has the guts and the courage to say and support renewables. It's true, it's happening. You can see it, it's very easy to verify this. And this has to be a national target. The companies cannot do anything more than they already do as regards the public awareness and acceptance. So yeah, okay. Intrakat as a group is always following the technologies. We're developing massively projects in wind, PV, storage. Recently, we were awarded 200 megawatt hours in the last auction of HAEE. More than happy to participate to any initiative regarding islands or anything new. But I think that we need strategy that we don't have.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid that I agree with what you said concerning the picture of the country. And I feel uncomfortable when discussing with my clients from abroad by analyzing the regulatory framework and its weaknesses. So on the one hand, I want to attract them here. On the other hand, I cannot lie to them. I cannot cover things because it's not possible. We're professionals. Last but not least in the questions, you, Mr. Karydas, I like that you will say a few words about the new adventure of your group. It's not new, but it appears as new for the eyes of most of the people. So, Gregi, the interconnection between Egypt and Greece, backed from 9,000 megawatts of PVs in Egypt from Copelouzos group, with an approach that reminds me seminar for interstate agreements. I had the chance in my life to work for a lot of interstate projects, mostly at that time for pipelines. As I said you before, also for the big cable connecting Caucasus with Europe that was highlighted from President von Landen. But now we want to hear about your cable, your efforts, your approach, and one very important thing. We have an interconnection from Egypt. Could it be possible to extend that interconnector also via sea to Europe so that Egypt and further on Greece will have the possibility to export the huge quantities that they could produce as renewables, and not to have this unbelievable phenomenon to have thousands and thousands requests for permits and licenses, and at the end of the day, not to have the investments, and of course not to have the possibility to absorb, because transmission system operator could not do it. So a further interconnector connecting by Adriatic Sea somewhere in the Central European countries could be a solution. You could be part of it.
Well, definitely the
Thank
answer.
you, Ioannis.
Well, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to participate in this interesting panel with the esteemed other participants. The answer to your question, whether it's possible to have another interconnection linking Greece with Northern European countries, the answer is definitely yes. But let us take step by step. Yes, as you said, our project, Gregi, is not a new one, it's an old one. We conceived the idea of the electrical interconnection between Egypt and Greece back in year 2008. As to see how long sometimes it takes to develop.
I fully agree. I fully agree.
Yes. And we signed the first agreement with the Egyptian government back in the year 2010. Definitely, as you said now, Gregi is known to everybody. Why? Because now, especially after the recent developments with Ukraine, the market has highlighted the importance of electrical interconnections. And the importance of them that show the direction towards which Europe must move is that it's the very strong instrument, the way that Europe, let's speak as Europe, and of course Greece being part of Europe will benefit from that, can achieve energy security, energy differentiation, independence from fossil fuels and definitely from Russian natural gas, through electrical interconnections. As you know, the strategy of Europe is to electrify the energy grid and supply it with green energy. And having Europe set important and aggressive targets, Fit 55, zero CO2 emissions until the year 2050, the only way to accelerate the achievement of such goals is through electrical interconnections. There was a study conducted by McKinsey a few months ago stating that for Europe to achieve such important targets, we need to install and implement a huge amount of renewable energy sources. But there is not enough land in Europe, either because there are other projects operating, due to environmental limitations, due to archaeological limitations in Greece, as you know, we face all that, due to town planning limitations, due to numerous limitations. So the way is what? To expand and go to other countries, neighboring countries to Europe, however, who possess both an abundance of free land, high capacity factors, both for wind and sun radiation, and obviously the political wish to export green energy to Europe. So the way to do that is through implementing interconnections. Now our project is hugely supported by both, of course, the Greek government and the Egyptian government, and by Europe, because it will provide substantial benefits to Europe. Now our project is a candidate to be included in the first PMI list. PMI list is projects of mutual interest. It's a new category created by European Commission for projects linking one member state to a third country. But essentially, it's a PCI with a different name. And we expect the decision by the end of October, and hopefully everything will go well for Gregi. What Gregi is about is a direct interconnection linking Egypt with the Greek mainland, a length of around 950 kilometers, and with a capacity of 3,000 megawatts. Only. To all. Your question is serious, because
It's very serious, man.
looking at the end of the day over
Looking
long
at
run,
the needs
3,000 for Europe, it's nothing.
till its
I agree.
construction, I assume that you will have a construction 4 or 5 years after the final investment decision, which means 6 to 7 years maybe, or I hope earlier from today. So needs are increasing day after day.
You are absolutely right.
So I don't see how not to increase the capacity as well. Why not? You have the production, you have the off-takers 100%, you have the possibility for PPAs, physical PPAs in this, but not only physical, could be also virtual. So you have everything, all the tools to upgrade the project and to attract the potential investors, other producers. Every Akuo, every Intrakat, all the producers or off-takers would participate in the shareholding of your project, as we have done very well and very successful with the FSRU. So same structure, I assume. It is perfect. It's for seminar. This is the way.
No, it's a perfectly valid question. Obviously, we're assessing such possibility, but of course now we're progressing with this scheme, and during the development we'll assess whether we'll have to expand it or install it and then expand it at a later stage.
So you are going to consider quantity expansion and further geographical expansion. Am I right?
Just to answer this question, as you know, due to strong wish of the Northern European countries, there are discussions among them and Greece and the Greek TSO to assess an interconnection from Greece, either onshore interconnection or via Adriatic Sea, from Greece via Balkans to Northern Europe, with a capacity of 3,000 megawatts. It's a project under the name Greek Aegean, which is an obvious, straightforward extension to our project Gregi, to transfer green energy from Egypt via Greece to Europe. So you understand that Gregi has the possibility to make Greece a very strong energy hub in East Mediterranean, and especially green energy hub, by providing numerous benefits, not only environmental and energy, economic, financial, and of course, and most importantly, geopolitical. Because having installed such projects, Greece will enhance the strength of its and the sovereign rights of its exclusive zones, and will enhance national security.
My question was for subsea cable for a very concrete reason, because when you have a multi-country project and you are crossing territories of countries which are weak or more unstable politically, you are increasing political risk, you are increasing insurance risk, you are increasing time for licensing and coordination. So therefore, from a lot of analysis that have been done up to now, it seems that a subsea cable, when crossing only exclusive economic zones of weak countries, let's call them like this, it could be much faster and much more efficient. What are you thinking on this, Eric?
Personally, I will support the cable straight to north. I like your idea of subsea cable, but the thing is, where we need the energy and the renewable energy now in the future is enough for simple reasons. Is availability of the resource. Resources in Greece or Egypt, wherever is in the south, is physical. So we need to carry on north. The other reason is we need to green the production of electricity in the north. When you talk about the Balkan, when you talk even Germany, we have to close the coal plant. The only way to do it is to bring much more renewable energy. And where will be the cheapest renewable energy? In Greece. So when you say one of probably the biggest renewable energy hub in the future will be Greece, I think so. That's why we are here.
Thank you anyway.
No, it's not. You don't have to thank me. You have to thank God for your physical, geographical position in the globe. That's the way it is. To answer your uncertainty or your question about the political stability of some countries we will cross.
Western Balkan countries.
Market is everywhere in the Balkan as a pass-through to Germany, up to Serbia and whatever. But what you have to remember is all the countries we are talking about are candidates to access to the European Union.
So it will take time. It will take time. Trust me.
We need to know what we want. Do we want energy security and face the main problem we have today, which is the dependence to Russia? So we're going to have to make choices. I
don't disagree. What I put on the table of this discussion is that when you have to pay back the loans of such an investment, you need very strong off-takers to secure the feasibility of the projects. The very strong off-takers, they are in Central and Northern Europe. Yeah. I'm sorry to say that in Albania or in Croatia, they are not so strong off-takers that could create the security feeling for the investor of the cable and the financiers that this is enough security. PPAs with off-takers which are not extremely strong. This is my understanding. Maybe I'm wrong.
We don't need the off-taker in Croatia. First of all, I trust in Croatia, and we have big business there since many years. Now it's a Eurozone also, so the Croatia is, for me, is not the main problem. No, I think we are talking about transmission. We are talking about energy security. Energy security, how do you achieve the energy security? You have to reinforce the grid, the local grid, of course, but you have to reinforce interconnection. And what we need is the solidarity between the countries, and we need to carry on to transport the energy north. But the off-taker could be a German company, or could be an American data center somewhere, whatever. Things are changing. We need several off-takers with good balance sheets, and there is good off-taker with good balance sheets everywhere in Europe. Don't focus only on a big one. No, there is many smaller ones which could be supporting the initiatives, and that's what we are demonstrating every day.
I fully agree again, but it takes much more time to have a lot than 2-3 bigs, which facilitate in terms of time and of closing the circle, production, transmission, and off-taker. This is something already, this process takes years and years. For a simple PPA, you have the experience already. It takes months of negotiation, not for big PPAs. Loukas, your opinion on this? You know very well PPAs. Yeah. You know very well all this process, how it goes.
Okay, everybody was everybody, we were spoiled all these years with the tariffs and the schemes, the supportive schemes. Okay, it's very difficult from one day to another to enter into completely competitive processes and try to negotiate PPAs. Yeah, okay. It's less regulatory. The problem is less regulatory. I think that the market will self-adjust itself to PPAs. I think the biggest problem right now in Greece are banks. Banks are not ready to, are not agile, I will say, to accept the off-takers PPAs. The off-takers, on the other hand, are very skeptical. Okay, we faced the last 2-3 years so many changes. We saw the war, we saw the COVID effect. Everybody are talking about curves produced by AFRI or whoever, and at the end of the day, those curves might mean nothing. So they try to predict the prices. We have seen good PPAs. We have seen good PPAs, and I think that we're going to see more and more PPAs executed by producers and off-takers. Personally, I'm very positive and optimistic about those PPAs. The market prices are low, especially when you are regulated hard and you cannot have access to the market prices because you are just renewable. It's not that bad to have a private PPA. The duration is an issue. Since, as I mentioned, everybody's afraid, we don't see bankable durations. We see 5, 7, at most 10 years of tenors. But I think that the market progressively will adjust, and we will see PPAs. I'm speaking always in a Greek content. Okay.
Konstantinos, to you the ball. PPAs, your experience, how it works, the weaknesses and the problems with the banks, everything that you have seen with your experience, what you are suggesting, what you are expecting.
I couldn't agree more with what has been said. I think, first of all, PPAs have been designed as a hedging mechanism. In Greece, they were introduced during the crisis, so they were starting being used as a cost-cutting mechanism by the off-takers, which is not really how it works. However, because of the increased prices, it works like that as well. In reality, yes, I agree with Mr. Lazarakis. The banks is a cornerstone for PPAs. What we have seen over the last 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe something like that, we have seen many PPAs. However, always we have the same thing of having something that it is easy in order to be bankable. We have seen many virtual pay-as-produced PPAs, mostly photovoltaics, which is easily understood, which can be financed, which can take 60-70% bank loans, and this is it. I fully agree. I think PPAs, they are a mechanism in the market that they can provide increased capital and can provide equilibriums and an adjusting mechanism in order for many things to proceed. We have seen only PPAs with some wind and some solar, but maybe with some gas generating units as well. But in reality, we expect to see PPAs with hybrid models, so PVs and batteries, PPAs only with batteries, PPAs with hydrogen units, different types of PPAs, not only pay-as-produced and virtual, but like all the other countries, the more mature countries have. For example, PPAs that we have big installed capacity separated into tranches, and then not have one-to-one project with off-taker, but each off-taker takes one tranche out of the total capacity. So we will have, we expect to see additional structures. We have to educate, I think, a bit the market more in order to start dealing with the big PPAs, in order to attract the interest for bigger projects as well. In my view, it's not only having big counterparties, it could be a combination of both. You need the big ones, but you need also the smaller ones, because At the end of the day, it's demand and supply, and it's term of profitability. With the smallest one, you will have much more profitability. And with the big ones, they have the negotiation power, so they will squeeze the PPA prices. A combination of both, it could be ideal, but in reality, we expect to see much more PPAs in the years to come, more difficult structures, more advanced structures, and I would like to say that we expect also to see the public sector being in PPAs in the years to come, because the consumption of the public sector is also a big thing.
Already started. EIAF, the water company of Thessaloniki, made a tender for PPA for certain quantity of megawatt hours. EIDAP already appointed advisors for similar tender process. So we see also public sector open an eye towards PPAs, which is very important.
Can I add something on PPAs? Because PPA is not new. Since 10 years that we operate in the United States, we've never been able to sell our electricity except with PPA. That's the only system. So
No feed-in tariffs, no grants.
No feed-in tariff, no tenders, no grants, nothing. There is a kind of grants when you are building your plant, but the only way we are selling energy in United States, and we've been able to finance our plants, was because we've been able to sign private PPA since 10 years. So we learn a lot from that. It's coming to Europe, but there is something we have to all to understand. The energy market in Europe will never be the same. Never. We'll never come back to 50 euro per megawatt hour as a wholesale price. Forget it. We have many things to do in Europe. We have the energy transition to finance. Imagine France, 75% of the electricity comes from nuclear. Do you really think in the coming years we will be able to finance a nuclear plant in France with a 50 euro per megawatt hour price? No, it's over. It will be over 100 euro per megawatt hour. When are we going to close the coal plant in Germany? Do you think we're going to close it without having an increase of the price to finance the energy transition? PPAs are seen by small consumer, big consumer in Europe as an insurance against the volatility of the price of energy. And of course, COVID and the war in Ukraine, what happens, reveal what could be the situation for any kind of company which are relying on energy. Today, I can tell you, I cannot fulfill the demands of PPA we have as a company. I'm not building fast enough to be able to fulfill the demands, because most of the companies, except the one who likes to play with the markets, they prefer to have a long-term visibility on prices, and they understood that they will have volatility period in the coming years. So PPA, corporate PPA, public PPA will be one of the two big mechanisms to sell energy in the coming years. That's going to be the reality.
François, you have an eye all over Southeast Europe.
On Europe, maybe a few comments. The first is Europe is working, it's the reform of the electricity market is working on a variation on PPA, which is the contract for differences, which hopefully will bring the best of both worlds, that is profitability and predictability. That's a big negotiation ongoing. And for once, there's a convergence of view of all countries. So that's something which changed the way the market is operating. It won't bring lower prices. I think Éric is right. It will bring more predictability. That's one thing. The second thing is something we tend to forget, and it's quite different. We always think about production. We should think also about the use of energy and savings. and the way we have to also invest in production, but we have to invest more in terms of how to save energy. Better cars, better houses, better production processes, better transportation. So the field of improvement is huge. It's also extremely expensive, energy transition. So at one stage, there will be arbitration to be made between investing in production and investing in savings. So that's, I don't have the answer, but really something which is important to sell. The last thing I wanted to say, which is quite different, is the one of the big virtues of renewable energies, or energy, as says Éric, is flexibility. So in terms of moving from one source to another, having the opportunity to scale up from small to very big. So we will need big projects, like the cables we were speaking about. These are fantastic projects, but also very complicated. So we will need them, but we will need the full balance, and we can move to something which is more flexible. In France, as Éric said, we were wedded on the large nuclear stations. That is, we go by 1 gigawatt to 3. It's a very rigid system. The virtue of renewable, it allows flexibility, and that's a work for planners, how to combine big things, we need them, and flexibility. That's not an answer, but something which is very important, and which is something new, which is offered by new technologies.
Unfortunately, we had the sign from Europe that are fighting the flexibility. What I mean by that? I mean that when you have European Investment Bank, EBRD, which are denying to finance anything related with gas, as if tomorrow we could use just like this hydrogen or only renewables and balancing the systems. This is funny. This is killing flexibility. Because unless we have a more open-minded politic from the part of the European Commission, not to finance the gas, but to have the bridge. We have a bridge. The next 5, 10, 15 years, I'm afraid we need further FSRUs. We need to use installations to escape from the Russian gas. If this will continue, we will not have the pipelines in place. What we are going to do? Do you consider that only renewable could afford the transformation as such?
Yes. EIB, I'm not going to say EBRD is doing a mistake or EIB is doing a mistake. They are banks. When you are banks, you're lending the money. And especially when it's the money, it's our money, you have to be careful twice than once. Why they refuse to finance? They're right. It's a toxic investment, You will never recover your money as a bank. You cannot amortize such investment in 10 years, 15 years. You need a longer time. So if they're not lending you the money for that, it's because they will never recover the money. One day, soon, you will not be able to burn gas to produce electricity. I'm not talking about any other application. But what we need is to increase to speed up, the increase of electrification of usage. That's key. I'm not going to enter in the debates with hydrogen and so on. There is projects which are very interesting, supported in south of Europe, in Portugal, for example. There was a huge project that has been awarded with European grants, and I suppose Greece will benefit from that soon because you got the resource. What we need is to increase and speed up the electrification of usages, but there is only one way today, is renewable and storage. Gas is not a solution. I'm sorry.
Gianni, within the next 2 or 3 months, your group is opening the FSRU in Alexandroupolis, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So
the first FSRU is expected to be operational
that just
in
have
January.
been financed, and you are expecting to operate for the next years in view of all the problem between Ukraine and Russia, and not only. Okay, so how you could agree with Eric's approach do you consider that it is well done that EIB and EBRD are not financing gas projects, even if they are connected somehow as systems for hydrogen transportation at a later stage, as we heard before from the DESFA presentation?
Well, I think I partially agree with Eric in the sense that obviously in the long run we need green energy and renewables, and definitely we need to accelerate with the implementation of new renewables. And also, as I said, with the implementation of interconnections, more countries can share the benefits of green energy. However, there is a but, that we need a transitional fuel because renewables cannot be implemented within a month or within 1 year or within 3 years. Even interconnections, we speak with a time frame of between 5 and 10 years.
Imagine for hydrogen, how much it will take.
Agree. Until all technological issues and safety issues are resolved. So we need natural gas as a transitional fuel. That's why also our group has invested and investing also in CCGT in Alexandroupolis, that also will be capable of using hydrogen as fuel. So you know that until 2 or 3 years ago, for Europe, natural gas was a black sheep. Yes, they were right, but we didn't do anything to achieve energy independence and energy security. So now we are puzzled with what Eric said, that definitely we need green energy. That's why in our group, green energy is one of the most important business units, but also we need to see how we can achieve this on the long run. We need a transitional fuel. So either we like it or not, natural gas will be there to stay and serve us until we achieve such transition.
Loukas, I know that you have to leave us in a few minutes for another important commitment, but before leaving us, I'd like to ask you something very simple. Energy in Greece and Europe the next decade, what do you see? How you see? Be your prophet, and after, of course, all the gentlemen. Yeah, okay. But you are the first to be the prophet on this, and we keep notices, eh?
Yeah.
After 10 years, we will discuss it again.
Yeah. Okay, we need infrastructure, we need grids, local and international ones. We need finance, we need a stable economic environment. I would agree with Eric, the only solution that we can see right now is renewables and storage. I will come again to the conclusion that we need more public awareness everywhere if we want to see more and more installations. Flexible legislation that fits to renewables and not to create obstacles. It has to be completely objective, the legislation. It's obvious that, being an entrepreneur, you are optimistic. It's fundamental. So we believe that some point of time the interest rates will be decreasing. We believe that the European economy again will start being more stable. We didn't expect to see inflation 7% or 10% in Germany, but we saw it. I suspect that some point of time this war will finish. Okay, the technologies are mature. Wind technology, solar technology is mature. Storage technology is mature. Okay, we will see hydrogen. There's a lot of things to be solved, technical things for hydrogen. But yes, in a nutshell, I will see in 10 years a more green mixture of energy produced. Okay, speaking about Europe, because this is what is closest to us, a more integrated system, electrical system throughout Europe will be facilitating, this energy transition from carbon to green energy.
I like your optimistic approach for one simple reason. when I say energy, I see society. When I see society, I see aged society in Europe, flows of immigration, energy poverty in the broader area, which will be important problems to tackle and to solve, which I consider will delay further and further this transformation. I wish very much to be much faster. I consider it will be much more late than anticipated. Why? Because of lack of areas, because of social reactions in some countries, minimum as in our country. So I see so many things that could delay this transformation according to the Pareto law as well. So at the end of the day, I'm not sure that everything what is anticipated to exist after 10 days will be in place. I'm much more afraid that all this, it will be extended time-wise. That's why I said for the decade, not for the future in general. For the decade, it will be much more extended. That is my fear. I wish to be much more optimistic, but when you see a simple issue from 2008 till 2023 to be initiated one interconnector and not has been taken yet the final investment decision, that takes time. For the oldest period, Bourges Alexandroupolis was a pipeline for oil, of course. They were negotiating 28 years. And it was always a project to be, first project in the agenda of the energy ministry. In every conference, we were discussing about the Bourges Alexandroupolis pipeline. So they are things that are unexpected. They are creating chaotic problems in the surrounding environment. As a result, delays. And delays, they are the biggest enemy of investors, of banks, and also society at the end of the day.
Yeah, there are days that I wake up myself in a mood like this also. I don't know if it's going to take 10 years or more, Thomas, but the future is green. The future is green and the technologies are there already. We used to not to have the technologies. We needed, energy, and it was, I mean, the time will come and, the historical of the future will say they used to burn things in order to have electricity. And it's going to sound very, very weird. Unless something else so much advanced comes and disrupts everything, I think that wind, solar, and storage will be the thing for the next 10 years or slightly more.
Thank you, Loukas, very much. Gentlemen, permit me to interrupt just for 2 minutes to say hello to Loukas because it is your time to leave. Thank you very, very much for your presence and your... you are not going to escape. Decade, next decade. Éric, for you. What do you believe for the next decade?
The thing is, I have no, I have no lesson to give. What is important to understand is we've done half of the job in the last 30 years, and we have only 6 years to do the second part of the job. Okay, that was what the French president said. That's not from him, but everybody's saying that, and we know what we have to do. I'm afraid that, unfortunately, we, like Loukas, we started renewable energy 20 years ago, so we're getting old and tired. We've been fighting a lot, trying to convince, push ideas, innovate. We still have some energy, but what's going to happen is that the young generation now knows that they will be the ones suffering from the fact that we've been talking too much in the last 30 years because we know what is the solution. We know where we have to go since 30, 40 years. We know it. And we all been talking, acting, but not at the level of response this planet was expecting. So when I was not trying to be nasty when I said gas is not the flexibility, it's just the reality. We cannot afford to burn gas and oil in the coming years. You saw, unfortunately, what happens in Thessaly recently. I'm not going to use that as an example, but the climate change is not for tomorrow.
It is an example. I'm
It's
sorry.
today.
It is an example.
It is today.
It is a reality.
The reality is today.
It is a reality. It's
So
an example.
what would you say to your kids? That they have to wait for 30 more years to solve their future? No way.
I'm fighting for
No
green
way.
energy.
I know.
Just want to be down to the earth.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about what I'm hearing every day. So, unfortunately, I think it's time to change. We need more young people that they're going to be on stage, more young people in government, more young people. They need to take their responsibility because they're going to be suffering in the future of the fact that we've been waiting too much. So I'm optimistic because at some point when we are facing the wall, sometimes humanity is trying to recover. I hope it's not too late. But we have everything to do it. We know what to do. We have to change our behavior, our way of acting every day. So energy efficiency, you've been speaking about it. That's key. The cars, you know, when I'm hearing people still talking about cars as a dreaming object, cars is just a point. It's just a way to go from one point to another point. So the young generation, they are changing. They are going. They're thinking differently because they're gonna have to adapt. What we have to do now is adapt ourselves, and I come back to that when EIB and EBRD is not financing fossil fuel, when Fatih Birol from EIA is an organization from the old company originally, and when they are saying, guys, we cannot afford to continue to do exploration of oil and gas in this planet. This is EIA. This is not Éric Scotto, which is representing a renewable energy company. This is EIA. This is the consortium of the oil company in the world, which is saying that. So let's do it. Maybe I hope it's not too late. But my vision is, I'm optimistic. That's exactly what I was saying to the journalist this morning. He was done. And I told him, you cannot be done.
You are visionary with results.
We have not the right.
Every permission to create visions and to bring the results. Thank you, Éric. François.
Yes, 2 comments. The first about finance. Yes, EIB and EBRD will stop. I think it makes sense because they're there to lead the way to new solutions. I also think that private finance is still available in huge quantities to fund classical energy. So that's not really an issue. The project, which makes sense, they will get financed by banks, by oil companies, by regardless. I think it's the figure is $1 trillion financing for classical energies in the last 10 years. So it's not a problem per se. The other issue I wanted to talk about is dependency. We had the dependency on oil. We had the dependency on gas, and we saw the results. So we will move to new energies. We have to be careful not creating new dependencies. I'm thinking about one large country which produces lots of solar panels and rare earth. So I think we all, and maybe not Éric but we at least in the administration, and when we think, we need to think about avoiding create a new dependency which we will regret dearly in 15 or 20 years. So that's an issue. That's why my president is speaking about reindustrializing Europe and moving back production from far to close. And that's something we have to do in parallel with moving from one energy to another. It's also thinking about how we produce things, how we do things, and how we avoid replacing one dependency by another. It's something, again, to be integrated in the reflections we have.
Thank you, François. Konstantinos.
I also agree. The future is green. And I think that this has to do because of the climate change and the cultural change, because people want the future to be green. However, I think that the 10-year, the decade that you said, is not a big period in reality. And if we take into consideration what are the lessons that we have learned over the last 3-4 years, we have seen that there are many issues and many things that they can change the economy, they can change the market just in a few days. So if we take into consideration that the future has to do with electrification, so we will see increased demand for energy, for power. And if we see the decarbonization of shipping, for example, it is better to have gas or cold ironing instead of having oil. So if we take into consideration the increased demand, then we have to cover this kind of demand. Yes, it's going to be green, but we are consultants, so we have to make scenarios. So the scenarios are not 100% and 0%. It seems that green is increasing over the next decade, and gas is dropping and oil is dropping. However, I would say that if something else happens, for example, we don't have access in order to get in the supply chain, in order to get batteries, then we have to find a way in order to tackle the increasing demand. Then we need another vehicle for stability, and this could be gas. So I would say, and I will close that it is green. Renewable storage, yes, totally, but we will still have, over the next decade, a portion of gas that is going to be declining and declining, but we will need it in order to have security. Over the next decade, maybe it's something different.
Ioannis.
I think nobody disputes the fact that the future is green, and we will work towards achieving it as fast as possible. But of course, we have to make sure that all the society shares the same opinion, because one of the strongest obstacles we have in accelerating the implementation of green energy projects is reactions and the fact that vast society is not familiar with green energy. And we have also fake news. So one of the tasks that we need to do as a country, and not only as investors, is to educate society towards accepting green energy, solar, wind parks, and other forms of green energy. You said Bourgas Alexandroupolis. Now the project has been revived, but the opposite way is Alexandroupolis Bourgas. Reverse flow, yes. So life makes circles. One very quick comment, as you said, regarding political risk. At least within Europe, I believe, due to the fact that we move towards market integration and the fact that energy will interlink interest from many countries, the political risk is reduced. So I wouldn't worry about political risk within Europe. Just regarding, of course, whether the interconnection will be onshore or submarine, one has to assess the merits for its solution. In a nutshell, I believe in order to proceed forward, we need definitely storage. We need upgrading the grid. We need interconnections. The benefits of interconnections are multifold. And of course, we need, as I said, to educate society. And we face one challenge, I think everybody agrees, time. We need to accelerate. We have good projects. Projects are here on the table. We have investors, both local and foreign investors. We are lucky that today we're facing a golden momentum for Greece. It's a golden opportunity for Greece to accelerate. And if we vision Greece after the implementation of all these projects, will be a different country. Will be an important country for all the Eastern Mediterranean and Southeastern Europe.
Ladies and gentlemen, time is of essence. It's very important. I feel more wise to have all this discussion today with the exceptional panelists. I feel perfectly with the time. We just overpassed the time for 13, 14, 15 seconds. I'd like to thank the organizers and all of you that you were here. You make us feel better when discussing to have also audium. It's very important. Thank you very much.